never said I could sing. Hey YouTubers, I've been asked to do a lesson on painting skies, so that's what you're going to get. As always, we start with the picture already blocked in. Paint's dry, so we're just putting a layer over the dry paint here. I'm going to start as far back as we can. So the furthest point in the distance is where we start painting. So that's going to naturally be on the horizon line. And that also is going to be the lightest part. And as we come forward and go nearer the top of the panel, we'll go steadily darker. So I'm going to show you how we blend the layers. And then after that, we'll move on to the clouds themselves. So we just apply the paint here. I mean, it's not, you don't have to be too neat about it. And it's blended on there on the actual panel itself as well. So we're just going to give a second coat here to all of the area of sky in between the clouds. It's pretty simple to do. I'm using a fan brush here. You know what? There is no right or wrong way to do this. This is just the way I do it. You know, you might find a better way of doing it. There probably is a better way of doing it, but this works well for me. I've done it this way for many a year, but and I'll use whatever brush is to hand. It needs to be a soft brush, because you don't want anything to leave marks in the paint. It needs to be as smooth as possible. And just as it happens, this is the softest brush I could find. I'm not terribly good at looking after my brushes, I'll be honest with you. I don't clean them as often as I probably should do, and as a consequence, they don't last very long. But I do have a lot of brushes at my disposal. Probably should be a little bit less lazy. But as we go up here, nearer to the top of the panel, we are going darker. And I'm kind of not blending it as I'm going. I'm just, as you can see here, I'm going to put on a darker colour here. There will be a line between the dark above and the light below, and we'll blend that afterwards. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So here you can see an obvious line between the dark that I'm putting on now and the light I've just put on, and I'm going to do almost like I guess, you know, I'm just blurring the lines. I tend to go in a diagonal, so I'll go that way, and then I'll go up and down, and then I'll go on the opposite diagonal, like that, if that makes any sense at all. And I'll keep going over and over it until it's blended. I tend to use a little bit of liquid as well. You want the paint to stay as wet as possible for as long as possible. And although the liquid, interestingly, does dry out a little bit quicker, it does give you a better flow. And it's a race against time to get the sky painted while it's still wet. Because really, it's the only way you can blend a sky quickly. Wet on wet, that's the best way to do it. So as we go a bit darker again, and then just blend as you go. So we've graded in that blue there, and now we're moving on to the tops of the clouds here. I'm putting the paint on quite thick there, just because you're already painting on the blue below, which is still wet. If I didn't put that paint on quite thickly, it would just, you wouldn't really cover the blue sky. So I'm putting it on nice and thick, and then I'll, once again, as I did with the sky, I'll blend it later. Obviously not waiting before it's dried, still need to do it while it's wet, but we'll get all those white areas blocked in, if you like. Mental note to self: learn how to talk. I've got a habit of talking absolute rubbish. So we're just going to continue building up on this until we've got all the lighter areas in there. I finished this picture last week, and actually it's a slightly bigger picture than I'm used to, or that I've been used to recently, I should say. In the last sort of year or two, I've had a demand for smaller pictures, 12 by 12s, 12 by 16s. This is a little bit bigger, 1624, but it's still, a small painting. And probably if you were going to paint this on a bigger scale, you'd end up putting more detail in than I am here. But this isn't a hyperreal painting. It's just a fairly quick. It's not loose. I would say it's fairly photographic. But if I wanted it to be photorealistic, then I would be spending a lot more time on it. But so just bear in mind, we're trying to get a good result as quickly as possible here. And this is quite a good technique actually. I'm scumbling, so I'm just blurring using a different brush now, but just blurring tell a lie, same brush, but I'm just blurring the underside of the clouds here, and that's quite an effective way of doing it. But it will still need more of a blend in a minute. I'm doing that here with a blender brush, no less. What that is doing is taking all the tops off the paint. Because I put it on thickly, it's just wiping the tops and smoothing it, essentially. Because I want the sky to be smooth. I don't want it to be too have too many edges, be too hard. I don't want it to detract from the landscape itself. So I just almost want it just soft. As we did with the white areas, we are now adding darker areas in as well. Just filling it in roughly, it doesn't have to be too precise. And then we'll add some lighter areas as well. But you bear in mind, doing it quickly, just because it needs to be wet. The moment that starts to dry out, it's going to get sticky. Blending it is going to be, almost impossible using this technique anyway. So I'm going to get this done here. I do actually use a quick drying paint, which probably isn't ideal, once again, for doing this, but you know, I'm trying to get this picture done fairly quickly. Don't want to take too long at it. I've got somebody waiting for it. But if I'm quick with the sky, I'll have enough time to blend it. If it was a bigger picture, it would probably pay me to use a slower drying paint, something like Winsor & Newton Artist's Quality. This is Winsor & Newton Griffin paint I'm using here, which is an alkyd paint, and it does dry pretty quickly. I'm just going to leave you with this time lapse here, just to finish the sky off. There are so many more things I could say about it. I could go on for hours and hours. So many different skies, so many different techniques. And there will be more videos showing you how I paint skies and different effects and things like that. So if you just, keep your eyes open and call back every now and again, I'll show you what I can. But really, we could just go on forever and ever and ever. I think this is a 15-minute video, but it's condensed about 3 hours. 3 hours of work in 15 minutes. So if you enjoyed the video, click like and be sure to check back and see some new videos in a week's time. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.